A couple of weeks away from opening day means it's time for us once again to start our American League East preview series here on Pod on Lansdowne. I can't even say the name of the show right today, fellas. Here with Jake and Liam, and of course, as always, starting off with the Baltimore Orioles, our friend Rose, naturally Cats11 on Twitter. Rose, this is your third time here. You know the drill by now, but thanks again for coming on to the show, stepping into the lion's den that is Red Sox Twitter, Red Sox podcasting. It's always great to have you on the program.
I'm honored to discuss the reigning AL East champions, which is something I have not been able to say since I was in high school.
2016 was the last time they won the division?
No, idiot. That was us. 14. We won in 2016.
Oh, yes. Okay, fair enough.
2016 was the Orioles.
They made the playoffs.
Red Sox, yeah. No, they made the playoffs, and nothing happened after that.
Yeah, especially with Zach Britton. Definitely nothing happened on that front.
They decided playing professional baseball in Canada was not a good idea this close to the election.
They could have moved to Canada after the election, though, after everyone was going to say that.
When did the O's last win? 15?
They made the playoffs in 12 as the wild card, 14 division, 16 wild card.
Okay, so 14.
Now, again, you mentioned, obviously, the American League East reigning champions, Rose, and it's a good place to start there because, again, this is your third time doing this. We started this preview series before the 22 season, and I don't want to say we were patronizing of the Baltimore Orioles in 2022.
Come back to
better times were ahead.
You have to, as Bob Nightingale once said, but you have to understand, after 21, because I just wrote the article for OTM, I think it was 54 wins in 2021.
Somewhere.
I got to pull up.
54.
Was that the worst one?
52, 83, and 101. The last.
What was the worst one? Was it 21?
I think 2018 was the worst one, which is still incredible because that had
47.
That had 4 months of Manny Machado, 4 months of Jonathan Scope, 4 months of Darren O'Day. Like that was not planned to be a tank. That was like, okay, yeah, we missed the playoffs in 2017. We have this even year thing going, like a diet version of the Giants. Like, okay, we'll be
see
back
if we can get into the wild card game.
And then all hell broke loose. Like it is, I've never been more confused by a team with like 4 or 5 legitimately really good players who contributed to like the prior playoffs teams. Just like abject disaster. So
I think I have fun fact. Show and tell real quick.
While Liam gets that, just again in 21, absolute disaster. 22, again, not an amazing team at that point, but they were making strides. So we go into the 22 preview, be like, here come the Orioles. Adley's ready to come up and make an impact. They've got Gunnar waiting in the wings. They've got a pretty solid farm. But, there's still some pieces here, some stuff to be left desired, even though 22 was a good enough of a season. Jesus Christ, they have the second most wins in all of baseball in 2023. Short eventually to the World Series champion Texas Rangers, but over 100 wins, most wins in the junior circuit. We now enter the 24 preview with you looking down at us when we're in the pits. So it's kind of the shoe's a little bit on the other foot here. How does it feel?
And you got a new owner that wants to spend money.
Yeah. How's that like? Let's start there.
What's that like?
I mean, I don't want to rain on the parade, but like I'm assuming he's inclined to spend more than like the Angeloses, but there's like a very wide range of what that entails.
That's
like
true.
there is Padres spending, and there is like whoever is like 14th in payroll this year. Like I'm assuming there's going to be more financial commitment because it would be weird to become the owner and like not do that. But like no one has any idea if the ceiling of our payroll is the Mets, the Padres, the Yankees, etc., or just like a much more respectable like small market team. So like that's the big question as far as
that's a step up either way.
Yeah,
right?
It's definitely progress. But like, is this so much money that we are going to extend all of Gunnar, Adley, Jackson Holiday, Grayson Rodriguez, or is this just enough money where we can extend one of them and also occasionally hand out a modest multi-year deal here and there? So like it's a step in the right direction, but literally no one has even the slightest clue if this is going to be Padres payroll or just no longer embarrassing payroll. So like it's definitely good news, but like and the Corbin Burns trade is obviously a good step forward, but that's still a 1-year rental, and I'm assuming it won't be extended until someone puts pen to paper on either an extension or a multi-year free agent contract. I'm currently my mental state is like, cool, this is encouraging. I still don't know what exactly it entails.
Right, cautiously optimistic. And I did want to get into that later, but might as well onto this point. Actually, before we do that, Liam, you said you had a show and tell thing. I don't want to.
Oh yeah, no, we're like way past it now. But we were talking about the 2018 Orioles. I have the media guide here, and it's like an absolutely loaded roster.
Yeah,
100%.
Rattle them off, Liam. Rattle them off for our beautiful listeners.
Yeah, before
front and
Gausman
center,
became
of course.
Gausman, as we know him now, but Gausman's still there.
So Gausman, Scope, Adam
Gausman
Jones,
was like reasonably
Manny.
good as an Oriole. Like I feel like there's this like, what's the word? Like it starts with an
They
R.
gave Alex
history.
Cobb $80 million.
Revisionist. Thank you. Like there's this revisionist history that like Kevin Gausman was like a disgrace as an Oriole. Like no, he was like a B tier starter who became an A tier starter after he left. Like he was the best pitcher on the 2016 team.
Right, yeah, he was unlocked truly to his full potential when he was out west in San Francisco, but he was still solid enough.
This was not a Jake Arrieta. People like assume like, oh yeah, this is like he left the Orioles.
Arrieta was with Baltimore.
Like Jake Arrieta was like legitimately rancid as an Oriole. Kevin Gausman was just a B tier starter.
Who was Gausman's like they were going to be? Oh, Dylan Bundy, right?
Yeah,
Bundy.
What happened to him?
Bundy was supposed to be an absolute
Dylan Bundy
monster.
was traded for Kyle Bradish, which I would say was the best trade of the Elias era up until Corbin Burns became an Oriole like 3 weeks ago.
There you go. Right. There you have it. Dylan Bundy was an all-time like, man, I'm short on fantasy starters right now. I need a quick streaming candidate. Oh, Dylan Bundy's playing Kansas City? Then fire him up. Fire him up there. But
I'll never forget like when they drafted Bundy, and I think it was the same year we drafted Matt Barnes. The two of them like faced off in a low A game, and there were like scouts there that were saying it was the best pitched game they'd ever seen. Like matchup wise.
I was going to say, I'm going to plug this for Orioles fans. I need to note that I will never forgive Matt Barnes for throwing at Manny Machado. I understand the context of that, but like he threw out his head. Like at least Chris Sale had the decency to like throw behind him. Like Matt Barnes was aiming for the head.
And it was like 3 different pitches too. Like he kept coming inside.
Yeah, like I remember that was like a Sunday game, and I was there. I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, so yeah, not to relitigate. Nice. Relitigate the great Manny Machado slide gate, but if I hear Matt Barnes, I have to say I do not approve of his character or behavior.
I don't either, frankly. He got
the bag and disappeared.
Yeah, he fucking sucked.
I respect him for that. I mean, I will salute anyone who's able to secure the macaroni and cheese. But no, as we enter a couple of weeks away, Rose, from the AL East title defense in Baltimore, what's the feeling here? Because you sort of talk about the new ownership like with a cautious optimism, but in general, before we get into some specifics, how confident is Birdland going into this new era of Orioles baseball?
I'd say people are feeling pretty good. Like we are essentially completely running it back because there's basically no one of note who left. Like the full list of free agents who left is like Adam Frazier, Jack Flaherty, Kyle Gibson, Shintaro Fujinami, and I'm definitely forgetting someone, maybe another reliever or something. We're like, they're essentially running it back. Like they're bringing back Santander, they're bringing back Cedric Mullins, they're bringing back Hayes. Like
we can't escape Cedric Mullins. To be fair.
The opening day lineup is essentially the same as the lineup they trotted out in the playoffs, and admittedly that didn't work out that well, with presumably replacing Adam Frazier with Jackson Holliday. So like, as far as the offense, as long as no one gets injured between now and opening day, which is not a lock, like they're running back their lineup that won 102 games, and they're swapping out Adam Frazier, the number 1 prospect in baseball. Pitching's a little more Kyle Bradish is injured for some unknown amount of time. It's not season ending, but
Means is hurt too, right?
Not season ending, has a very wide gap of when he comes back. Yeah, Means is hurt. I don't know what's going. Like he came back from Tommy John, and I feel like that's always like, I don't know how that's gonna go.
Yeah, situation. It's like it's not like he's hurt. It's just like sort of like a setback. It seems like with John Means right now.
Like he just hasn't contributed meaningful innings since coming back from Tommy John, because like that's how Tommy John works. So yeah, I feel very confident about the lineup, especially if Jackson Holliday is pretty much as advertised, and if they are brave enough to put him on the opening day roster, which I think they should, unless he bats like 0-0-0 in spring training. So yeah, I'd say lineup confidence 9 out of 10, and then for the bullpen, Felix is presumably out for the year. They might try to again. I'm not a doctor. My understanding is Felix is like 85% out for the year, and if they think they really need him for the playoffs, they might risk something. So yeah, the bullpen has a question mark because like they got Craig Kimbrell, who I believe is very familiar to the Red Sox fans that would be listening.
Yeah, I was going to bring him up.
2018 champ, no blown saves in the postseason.
Not a single blown save. Yeah. Listen, at the end of the day, I appreciate Craig Kimbrell for what he was able to do for the team, but I'd be lying if I said he's not going to give you like heart palpitations.
I wouldn't wish watching him on my worst enemy. I don't think, especially now. Like
after
worse.
last fall, I was like, I would never want to see him on the mound in high leverage spots again.
Yeah, so I mean, good luck. But maybe I don't know.
So yeah,
well, you would have to assume Cano is going to be the main leverage guy. No.
Yeah, Cano is the main guy, but Cano does not have anywhere close to swing and miss stuff. Where Felix had like the single best swing and miss stuff of like every reliever ever. I think that's only mildly hyperbole too. Like,
wait,
I think
they're planning on not pitching Kimbrell as the closer?
Oh no, yeah, they are. They wouldn't have made that commitment if they.
Yeah, because he can't. He's got a severe mental block.
Yeah, it's like Kimbrell and then Cano. Like
he starts short circuiting in the 8th inning. So, it's not right.
Yeah. So yeah, the lineup. I mean, again, obviously someone will presumably get injured, but if we make it through spring training with like 0 injury concerns, I feel very good about the lineup. Like I legitimately don't think it has any like bad hitters in it. Like I don't know if it has like an insane stud. That'll depend on like how much Adley or Gunnar can take a lead. But like if there's no easy outs, it's a pretty good lineup. But yeah,
right.
I was gonna ask, like, is the only like real, I don't even know if this is like a legitimate hole because he looked really good last year when he was getting playing time, but like Ryan O'Hearn is that really like the only hole, quote unquote, hole in the lineup? It's the only one that comes to my mind.
I was gonna say, like, I feel like O'Hearn was like pretty productive against righties when they just platooned him with Mountcastle, and Mountcastle also had like vertigo, which I cannot say I'm not an expert on every like baseball injury ever. That's the first time I've heard of that as a reason for someone to go on the injured list. So like he came back from that like way better. Where I was like, wow, did he have vertigo for like the entire first half of the season?
What did that Red Sox player had vertigo a couple of years ago? Wasn't that a thing?
My dog, one of my dogs had dog vertigo. My dog.
All that's coming up is Alex Verdugo. That's not helpful.
My mini Australian Shepherd, she had I'm sorry, it was my yellow lab, Chloe. She had dog vertigo. That's like what the vet said.
I don't want to make light of it, but what happens with
No,
dog
she's
vertigo?
fine. She was just like she's
like
fucking dizzy.
Sorry for laughing at that. I'm not.
No, she's good. This was like 3 years ago.
The idea of dogs getting like human illnesses is very funny to me because I'm just not exposed to it. It's like, my dog has heartburn.
She just was like, she kept getting dizzy. Like she couldn't like walk really for a long time. She'd like kind of tip over. So
jeez.
That was it. And then we brought her to the vet and he was like, yeah, it's dog vertigo. And then we went home and she was fine. So I don't know.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the more like random Orioles storylines is that our first baseman was like too dizzy to hit for multiple months and then like came back hitting like way better. So yeah, first base I would say is probably the most like, I don't want to say in doubt position, but I have no idea how they'll distribute the playing time between Ryan O'Hearn and Ryan Mountcastle, because if Mountcastle doesn't have vertigo and can like handle right-handed pitching just fine, then Ryan O'Hearn is.
I can think of one place
where he really fits.
Yeah, I can think of one place where Ryan Mountcastle definitely doesn't have vertigo. It's Fenway Park in Boston, Massachusetts. Because that fucking guy. Can we take a second to talk about Ryan Mountcastle against the Red Sox? He has just over 200 plate at-bats against Boston in his career. 10 home runs. I feel like every time he steps up to the plate, he does
like
damage.
Half of them have to be against Chris Sale.
It's maddening.
He absolutely owned Chris Sale.
I was going to say, it's very funny to hear, like, I thought you were going to go on a tangent about how he kills the Blue Jays, because I don't know if you have, like, his team-by-team splits pulled up, but if one of you wants to pull them up, whatever his OPS is against the Red Sox, I guarantee you it is like 600 points higher against the Blue Jays. So
I believe, because I mentioned it in that article, I mentioned he has an 805 career OPS against the Red Sox.
Oh, that's nothing.
Against
whatever it is against the Blue Jays. I guarantee the Blue Jays is a 4-digit number.
Well, you know what? We'll ask. We can pull it up on StatMuse too. Liam, are you on that right now?
Yeah, I'm on it.
We can ask our Blue Jays guest about Ryan Mountcastle. Maybe Ryan Mountcastle might be like our Madame Web. His web connects all the teams in the AL East.
Madame Mountcastle.
Yeah, Mountcastle's kind of interesting because he's not like a veteran to the same extent that like the outfield is. Like Santander is a free agent next year, and Cedric and Hayes are 2 years away. So they're like the veterans. Like Mountcastle was, I think, like the first real promotion they had in the Elias era, but he was still a Duquette guy. So he's sort of like kind of in the purgatory of not really being a veteran, but not really being like the flashy new prospect. Like,
seems like a Duquette guy, right-handed meathead who can just smash on his day.
yeah, and they drafted him as a
Oh,
shortstop.
Liam, you got it? What is it, Liam?
Yeah, I got it. So I'll compare him to us at first. His line against us is 273, 336, 468. So the OPS is 805, like Fitz said. But against the Blue Jays, it's 330, 394, 619. So the OPS is just over 1,000. He's got
Jesus
15 home runs
Yeah, the
and
grass
43
is
RBIs.
always greener, I suppose, man. Like, because again, I swear that guy fucking just kills the Red Sox, and then I hear that the Blue Jays fans are like, they're furious at me if they hear that. Are you kidding me?
But yeah, I
1,000
think,
OPS.
admittedly, I have an affinity for him because I made his last name a pun, but I think
Yep.
he's probably one of the more interesting like offensive players because like he has a somewhat limited skill set where he offers right-handed power and not much else. But if you're offering more than enough right-handed power, then yeah, you have a pretty nice career in Major League Baseball. And if you're not offering enough right-handed power, then you're a first baseman who can't play anywhere else, who does not walk enough. So he has like a very fine line between being like the opening day starter until he hits free agency or getting dropped for Kobe Mayo.
And that's a good transition because you obviously you talk about Gunnar, who 125 OPS plus in his rookie year after a pretty slow start, if I'm not mistaken, and he still he catwalks to the rookie of the year where he waltzes. Obviously, Adley's one of my favorite players to watch in all of baseball because he does everything right, it seems, and it comes so naturally to him. He's also one I think you should leave fan, so that's bonus points in my book for him. You talk about the other usual suspects like a Mullins, like a Santander, and then Jackson Holiday making the way up. But you still have Kobe Mayo, you still have Heston Kjerstad, and there's one other prospect,
Colton Cowser.
Yes,
Is Kjerstad's the one that looks like all the others, right?
All white and blonde.
Yeah, they all look like they're going to ask me who do I know at this frat house. Like,
I was
what's your
gonna say,
ratio, bro?
I don't know how much this like story broke through to like non-Orioles fans, but Kjerstad had like a heart condition that I think was related to COVID, but do not like quote me on that.
Was it like the myocarditis?
Yeah, he
That's
had
Eddie. Eddie had that.
Yeah, he had that.
Eddie, he links us. He links us all.
So yeah, he had that, and like it took him, I think, like 18 months between when he got drafted to have like his first like professional plate appearance, like in the minors. So the fact that he is now like actually legitimately a major leaguer is kind of wild because like at a certain point, like I thought like, okay, this is just presumably going to end his career. Like if he's gone this long without like being cleared, like I mean, I'm obviously not a doctor, but like it was a very bizarre circumstance being like, yep, we drafted someone who has a heart condition, which is totally out of his control. And for all we know, we just burnt a top 5 pick on someone who's literally never going to play. Yeah. It was so the fact that he has gone from heart condition, unable to play, to like catching up on all the missed time and presumably being like the opening day DH is a pretty cool story because I legitimately did not think he was ever going to play.
Right. Now,
what's his natural position? What's it if he was playing defense? What is he?
Outfielder, I thought, right?
Yeah, corner outfield, and he can play first because you can teach most people to play first base. I wonder if there's a movie that talks about this, but yeah, like he is not athletic enough to play anywhere other than corner outfield and first.
Okay.
But again, you talk about that collection of prospects in Baltimore who haven't even become consistent producers for the big club. As we get into the dog days of the summer and get closer to the trade deadline, Rose, it's hard to speculate because injuries can happen. We don't know if teams are going to flounder or be better than expected. But generally speaking, how many of these prospects who aren't in the mix just yet for the O's do you see becoming contributors or potentially being traded as short-term improvements for the big club? Because they have 6 or 8 of the top 100 in pipeline still in the prospect who, still in the system who haven't yet been called up. It's crazy. And then you look at some of the pitching injuries right now. Maybe they want to upgrade there. I'm curious to see what Baltimore's going to do in the short term and in the future with these young players.
Yeah, now that the Corbin Burns trade has happened, and I read an article about this a couple of weeks ago, the Corbin Burns trade was significant, one, because they got Corbin Burns, and two, the principle of it, okay, they actually are willing to take the big swing. Their big deadline moves were Jack Flaherty and Fujinami. It was okay, are we ever going to trade anyone who has a top 100 next to their name? And like, oh, we traded Joey Ortiz, who's a current top 100, and DL Hall, who was like a former top 100. I think he still had eligibility somehow, but like we traded our best like pitcher who wasn't like fully established as a starter in the majors, and we traded a pretty good shortstop. It's like, okay, this is setting a precedent. This might happen a second time. So the fact that the Corbin Burnes trade happened makes me believe that the answer to this will presumably, yes, they will presumably move at least one of these guys. I think Coby Mayo has the hardest path to the majors because he's a primary third baseman who can be moved to first. And like I said, if Ryan Mountcastle his post vertigo production is legit and he's like a perfectly solid MLB first baseman, I don't know where they're putting him because like they can stick him in the corner outfield, I guess. But like if you're a natural third baseman and you're blocked at third by Gunnar and you can get moved to first, but you're blocked by Mountcastle, like I said, the only person who is a free agent after this year is Santander. So like the prospects aren't going to find room particularly easily. So if I had to guess, like between Mayo, Cowser, Kjerstad, I would definitely pick Mayo as the one who's most likely to get moved, just because like everyone in front of him has several years of control, and so yeah, I would say Mayo probably gets moved. I'm like Cowser's kind of interesting to me because he's like the only one that they called up and like sent down, where everyone else like they gave them like a long enough leash. Like Adley's like first like 20 games were not good. Gunnar, like when he got called up in 2022 was fine, but yeah, he started last year like being way too timid. They didn't send him down. So Cowser's interesting just because he's the only like top prospect they actually sent down. Was like, whoa, they really are not encouraged by this production. So I don't know how much they believe in Cowser after that. Like it's not a very large sample, but it was enough of a sample to tell them like, we're trying to win the division, kiddo. Go back to Norfolk. So yeah. Mayo seems likely to get moved just because of who else is there. Cowser seems, I'd say, a little less likely to get moved, but like again, like the fact that he's the only major prospect that they've sent down. Well, Joey Ortiz got sent down, but like they yo-yoed him where they were never serious about giving him. Like Cowser got called up, was like a consistent starter, did nothing with that thing that was like, all right, back to Norfolk with you. So and Cowser is probably the most interesting prospect because like they called him up and he was bad for a sustained enough period in games that counted enough where they weren't going to let him figure it out. Like we have a division to win. We're giving your playing time back to Aaron Hicks, which was like, and yeah, that was among the most bizarre developments of the 2023 season was like, we made Aaron Hicks not washed anymore. While one of our top prospects was like if you told someone before the season, like, yeah, we'll call up Colton Cowser and we'll send him down and no one will complain about it because we found a washed outfielder after Cedric Mullins got injured, you'd be like, that sounds insane. Literally what happened.
Yeah, I was going to ask out of that group there, are there any of the prospects that you're like pounding on the table, like unless it's an absolute like slam dunk sort of a trade, hold on to this guy because he can be, another piece to this puzzle?
Oh, the other major prospect of note is Samuel Basayo, who is like younger than all of them. Like out of all the major prospects, he's the only one that hasn't reached AAA yet. And he is also a pretty interesting situation because he's a natural catcher. And folks, let me tell you, we already have a pretty good natural catcher.
I was going to say, maybe the best catcher in baseball.
Yeah, right if the bat plays, then you can make him a first baseman or make him a DH or make him a corner outfielder or whatever. Where that's also definitely an interesting development. Like he hasn't reached AAA yet, but like he's a natural catcher. We're set there even if Adley doesn't get extended. Like he has, I think, like 4 years until he reaches free agency. Where it's like, okay, like I guess you can like do like a catcher platoon or whatever. Well, Adley switched head, so I don't think platoons
like,
are over. But
where did he
rotate
even come
them
from? Because I didn't hear about him until this offseason, and he's all of a sudden the 17th ranked prospect on MLB's top 100. Like absolutely out of nowhere.
I mean, it's the same situation as Holiday. Obviously, different ways to acquire each player. Where it's like, yeah, you are dominating levels that people your age don't normally dominate. But yeah, I've given up on having opinion on what they should do with Samuel Basayo because, like, again, plays catcher. We're really, really set at catcher. Like, you cannot be more blocked for playing time than being a Baltimore Orioles catching prospect. But also, like, Adley spends like 30 to 40 games either DHing or I don't remember if he's played first or either DHing or just having the day off. Or like, you could benefit from having an upgrade on James McCann, but like. If someone like really wants Basayo in exchange for like 1.5 years of a good pitcher, like I would make the move. but others are much more like skeptical on moving him because like his production and age is impressive, but like I don't know, man. His natural position is catcher. Obviously, you can teach him a new position, but like a catching prospect that you're just willing to get rid of, well, not willing to get rid of, that you can get rid of without any like huge impact on like your organization. Like that's a pretty unique trade chip. Like I think the last time that like a catcher has been like a prospect that got moved in a deal was like when the Dodgers moved Keibert Ruiz for Scherzer and Trey Turner. And like if we can get a Scherzer and Trey Turner type of return by including someone who won't be the main starting catcher, then yeah, I'd do that. But I think I'm more open to moving him than other people, just because like again, like the age and production is impressive, but like you're a catcher, bro. We're set for catcher for the next 4 years. If someone wants like their catcher of the future when we already have our catcher of the present, if it's worth it, I'd include him, but I don't quite think that's the consensus opinion.
I also think that even the new ownership team, they'd be clowns not to extend Rutschman. I mean, switch hitting catcher who can defend and hit. I mean, that's your face of the franchise going forward. That should be, if anyone's going to get extended, with the exception of potentially Holiday if he blows up because he's a shortstop. But even with that in mind, I still think the slam dunk candidate for an extension, number one in Baltimore, would be Rutschman. Now, before we get into...
To get back to your... Sorry? Yeah, like essentially, like I would consider Jackson Holiday untouchable because like that's a pretty boring take. But everyone else, like if the deal is right, so yeah, Jackson Holiday is untouchable because like I watched more than enough games of that 2021 season where I want to see the reward for that amount of incompetence, where I believe they had a 14-game losing streak and a 19-game losing streak in
pretty impressive
2 different parts of the season. I was like, yeah, I want to keep Jackson Holiday not only for just like the premise of like, yes, this is our best prospect, but like I want to enjoy the reward for this level of incompetence the 3rd year into the Elias era. So yeah,
the fruits of the labor, if you're able to use that term.
Like I can do an entire podcast on like if tanking was worth it, and that's not what your audience is interested in. But like if it's gonna be worth it, you better get
it might
Jackson
be.
Holiday.
We're kind of going through it right now. We're pretty close. I don't know.
Yeah, so. I want to keep Jackson Holiday not only because he's the top prospect, but because like if we lost all those games just for a trade chip, I'd probably be a little cranky about it. But yeah,
right.
Everyone else can be moved because like we have a pretty good group of position players already, and also like certain positions, like I feel like you can find like reasonably priced free agents. Like I'm not demanding we trade Kjerstad, but if we trade Kjerstad, it's like, oh, we have a hole in the outfield next year. Just sign like Jock Peterson or whatever. Like you can find people that provide like that sort of archetype relatively easily.
Right. Now, I'll let you. This is fielder's choice on your end, Rose. I don't know how you want to. If it's like a ceiling and a floor for Baltimore this year, like best case, worst case, your head and your heart, whatever it is. Going into 2024, what's your outlook and a story for these 2024 Birds? What are you foreseeing for Baltimore this year?
Yeah, I'd say floor is like 85 or so. Like they won 83 in 2022 without Gunnar, without Jackson Holiday, without Corbin Burns, Grayson Rodriguez, or however much we get out of Bradish. So like they won 83 games basically entirely on accident. So I think like even a reasonable worst case scenario, like bump that up to like 85, and the ceiling is 100 plus again. Like they've already established that like that's not an insane ceiling. So I'd say if they do worse than 85 wins, then like 1,000 things will have gone wrong. And if things go relatively well, Jackson Holiday is Rookie of the Year, then I don't see why they can't win over 100 in the AL East again. So yeah, I would say floor is 85, ceiling is, I don't know, the 2001 Mariners.
There you go.
Well, okay, so give your prediction on record. I think hard number.
Yeah, I think 90 and 72. I feel like that's a reasonable expectation if you have a playoff roster, because it allows for certain things to go right, certain things to go wrong. Like I think the 50th percentile outcome is 90 wins.
I said 89. I thought they were going to 89, 73, and I think berth in the ALCS, I think that's in the cards. I think that's a reasonable thing to expect.
Gosh, yeah, I think they're better than that. I think I'm higher than both you guys.
I was going to say like 93, 95.
It's such a tough 95. Division. That's the thing.
Yeah. I was going to say, you asked like as far like what's like the big picture mindset. Like just get in the playoffs. Like I've experienced like the division race between them and the Rays, where like the Rays went like, what was it, like 13-0 or whatever to start. Like we did all that battling, and it combined for 0 playoff wins, which was also what happened with like the Braves and the Mets in 2022. So I'm completely over the idea of feeling like you need to like be in an insane division race the entire year. Get in, figure it out from there. So rather they win the division or not, I am not remotely moved by. Like, obviously, I still think there is an inherent advantage to having the bye, because in game 1 you start your ace, and the team that played in the wild card round starts like their number 3 or number 4 starter. Where like that's still a legitimate advantage. It's not like if people keep losing that game with the pitching advantage, that's figure it out. Like we lost to Andrew Heaney with Kyle Bradish, so like.
It is what it is. Yeah, the whole rest versus rust debate, people being like, "Oh, the bye is actually bad." That shit over the fall that was setting me.
I think the bye is helpful, but not enough where I'm going to like be freaking out if we're 1 game behind in the division with 3 games left, but we also clinched a playoff spot like 4 days ago. It's like, just rest
nice
up.
To have it,
like,
but just
like legitimately just rest up, enter the wild card series with everyone as fresh as possible. Let the Rays, Yankees, Blue Jays, Red Sox win the division. Like I've seen 2 division titles. I have not seen a single ALCS win in my lifetime. So just make the playoffs, win an ALCS game.
You will not have to let the Red Sox win the division this year.
I was going to say, I heard that and I did the Trump. The what?
Yeah.
The who?
Yeah. But between the Orioles and the Ravens, I don't want to say like I'm a nihilist about it now, but like I've seen 1 seeds that don't win the title, and with the Ravens, I've seen not a 1 seed win the title. Where like just make it, hope weird things happen in your favor.
All it takes is 1. Well, I mean, I guess a couple in baseball, but you catch my drift. So, anyways, now it's time for the part that I was very excited for. Who he play for, the second iteration here on Pod on Lansdowne. Rose, for people who aren't familiar, what is who he play for? It's not our original idea, not your original idea.
Yeah.
It comes from a different sport, but give the lowdown here, the elevator pitch.
Yeah, this is an NBA on TNT bit that they've been doing for, I think, a pretty long time, where they asked Charles Barkley about random role players that the casual fan I don't think is super familiar with. Who does he play for? And they, of course, abbreviate to who he play for. So the premise is just asking about reasonably well-known players that moved in the not like huge blockbuster moves, just like your B tier and C tier guys. So like if you watch the games, you will know who this person is, but like these are moves that didn't generate a lot of buzz. So I'm not going to be asking these gentlemen who does Shohei Ohtani play for. I will, however, be asking them the new location of 16 different players who are established, well-known Major League veterans, but are not superstars. And I don't think any of them had a particularly large amount of hoopla once they switched teams this offseason. So the premise is you're probably not going to remember all of these.
Alrighty. With that
out
of the way.
I was so bad at this last year or 2, whatever it was.
And the thing is, like, we've the last couple of months, I feel like baseball fans as a whole have been like, this has kind of been a slow off season here after Shohei and Yamamoto.
Checked out.
Yeah, it's just kind of been like, because Monty's still on the board, Snell's still on the board. Bellinger hasn't signed, right? He's still available. Am I right? I was going to say, because I don't remember Bellinger signing unless I just completely got amnesia. So over the last couple of months, it's kind of been slow. But even then, I'm still excited to see who's featured here. So without further ado, who he play for, let's get it going. How are we doing this? I don't know. Are we going to hit start on this?
I still can't hear anything. This is going well.
Oh, okay. Rose got muted. So a little bit further ado on that point. That's okay. Can you hear us now? Anything?
All right, we'll take
anything. 1, 2,
take a
1, 2.
Here.
Yeah, take a timeout. Yeah, I was gonna put this on edits. So hold on.
Take time. We'll edit it. We'll edit it out in post.
All right, Rose left, and then
someone. Yeah, I'll yeah. That's all good. All right, just jotting this down. That's kind of funny that I was doing the.
You gave the big lead.
Here we go. Let's get ready to rumble, and then sure enough.
So how are we doing this?
I thought that was going to be a good bit where here we go, and then it's so how are we doing this? But it was just like it was like
sincere.
Nothing.
Yeah, but
how are we doing this?
I don't know. I don't know.
How did we do it last year?
I think Rose pulled it up.
Rose
for
like
us.
screen
Yeah,
screen shares and,
because Rose was sharing the screen there. So,
but then do we have correspondence with Rose?
I sent a
Off the grid.
Nothing yet. I just said all good. We have a note to make edits, so we're fine there. Would be just kind of funny if she just ditched.
Is there anyone watching live?
Can you make a new link? She said. Okay. Yes, I can do that. So, all right. No one's watching live right now, Liam. No.
Oh damn.
All right. So, is it good if I make a new link?
Yeah, I don't give a shit.
Sure.
Okay.
Your call.
Talk to you in a few moments, gents.
All right.
Oh, I got to end this stream. End stream. There we go.